Sisterhood Tea Party, where we get together weekly to discuss all the tea about life, relationships, pop culture, and generally anything you chat about with your best friend over a cup of tea or beverage of choice.
We're your hosts, Stephanie and Jessica, and we've been spilling the tea to each other for more than a decade, and now we're ready to invite the rest of you to the tea party.
In today's episode, we are spilling the tea on tips to deal with holiday stress. Because while we know the holidays are meant to be a time of joy, any planning and large get togethers are bound to have some stress.
A quick plug before we get started. If you like what you hear today, you can follow at Sisterhood Tea Party on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram.
So let's get to sipping with what's top of mind for us this week, Stephanie.
Yes, girl. I have some upcoming personal and work travel, which I'm excited about.
Fun.
Because we're getting close to Thanksgiving, which is wild.
I know.
But yeah, I'm very excited about it. And I think I've told you this. I really enjoy traveling. My friends will always joke around being like, "Oh, where's the jet setter off to now?" And I'm like,
Literally
keep
same.
up. I'm like, keep up, even though all of my travel's domestic right now, like it's still fine. But yeah, I'm really excited. I'm heading home back to Kansas for like a week or so just to hang out with the family. So I'm looking forward to just literally unplugging, recharging, and just hanging out with the family, having zero obligations because I'm taking off the entire week of work. So that'll be really nice. And then after Thanksgiving, I'm headed to Phoenix for a conference. So I'm really excited about that.
Oh, it'll be nice to get to some right? It gets warm in Phoenix, does it? Maybe
I
it gets
think
cold
so.
too. I don't know. I was thinking warmer weather.
If it's cold, it'll probably be like 80s. I don't know. I haven't been to Phoenix. I haven't been to Phoenix in years, so I'm excited to have a little bit warmer weather in November, which is wonderful.
That is amazing. And yes, I know
Yes,
you love to travel. I do too. I feel like that's like something that we have in common for sure. We're always
big
like
time.
have you seen those TikToks where they're like, oh, no, I have to keep up my appearance of being the friend who's always in some random place on their Instagram.
Literally. It's always somewhere. I think every time I post those little like stickers that are like show your like weekend review or like your month recap, the photo dumps, it's always in a different place and it's never in my current city. So
I love
I'm
it.
always keeping up appearances. It's fine.
It's fine. Well, for me, top of mind for me is a little bit more homey, I suppose. Basically, what's top of mind for me is pumpkin bites and banana bread.
Break it down, girl, because pumpkin bites just like are speaking to me right now.
Yes. So, as you know, and as all my friends know, I am pretty much allergic to anything that's domestic, which includes cooking. Like, I don't like to cook, I don't enjoy it. But during the holiday time, I will bake banana bread and pumpkin bites. So pumpkin bites is a recipe that this like really close family friend, she's kind of like another grandmother to me. She was actually like my first boss. She is who like created this recipe years ago. She gave it to me and my friend Amy because we both worked with her. And again, they're like, it feels weird to say she used to be my boss because again, she's like basically like a grandmother to me. But
Yeah.
her recipe, shout out Cheryl, and it is so good. It's got like butterscotch chips in it and this like cream cheese frosting, incredible. So I make those for Thanksgiving and Christmas every year. And then the banana bread is my grandmother's recipe. And it is bomb.com. Like it is so good.
Is it a secret wet recipe?
It is a secret recipe. It is a family recipe. And
Okay.
everyone in the family has it, but it is secret. I might slide it over to you if you ask nicely. We'll see.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'll DM you on the side and ask for
Yes.
it. Could I at least get the pumpkin bites?
Yeah, I can share those.
Thank
But
you.
yes, so I'm ready for all the holidays and all the baking, and I'm very excited for that. But speaking of
Wonderful.
holidays, let's talk about tips to reduce or manage holiday stress because even though it's exciting, all the delicious food, it can be stressful too.
It really can be. Holiday season, I feel like every year there's always some level of stress that is added to it, whether it's like shopping or just getting ready for events and family gatherings, just a whole bunch of different things that happen during the holiday season. And it's just like, what are ways to just manage that stress, reduce the anxiety, reduce all of those things that come with holidays? Like, what are some tips that you have experienced or like want to share that can help
Yeah.
with that?
I think number one is like avoid overcommitting. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think I've gotten better at this as I've gotten older, but I still see a lot of people who do this who are literally going to like have you ever seen the movie Four Christmases where they go to
I don't think
literally
so.
four Christmases in one day? I'm like, that could never be me. Like, I don't want to leave the
Mm-mm.
couch. I'm in a food coma on Christmas, you know? Like, I don't.
Right.
So I think over like not overcommitting is so important, and not just like on a single day, but like through the season, because you are just so much busier during holiday season. You're like trying to catch up on work in between holidays.
Yeah.
You're seeing a lot of people. When you go back to your hometown, there's probably also friends you want to try to see while you're there, which is more time, like which are things you want to do, but sometimes you also just you can't overcommit because otherwise you're gonna
No.
like burn yourself out.
Absolutely. I agree with that. And it's okay to decline those invitations and requests, right? Like, we're going to have all of these opportunities for events and different family gatherings and different things that happen throughout the holiday season. And it's okay to say, hey, I have a lot on my plate. I can't commit to that. Or simply just saying no, full stop, no explanation, because you don't owe anybody an explanation as to why you're saying no.
We've talked about this. No is a
We
complete
have.
sentence.
It is. And so if you know it feels stressful, say no. If you want to give a reason, you're more than welcome to. But at the end of the day, prioritize your mental health when it comes to this. Like, not overreaching, not being able to overcommit, I think will help minimize that stress for sure.
Yeah, and I'll also say that like I think this can be really scary for people because there's like
Hmm.
an element of guilt to it, and like you just have some friends and family who are going to like push you, and no, they probably shouldn't,
Yeah,
but they are. But I do think that once you've done it once, it gets easier the next year, and it gets easier the next year
it
to like
does.
be able to say, look, I just got too much going on and I can't right now.
I agree. I think being able to setting that boundary early and sharing, like, this is how I'm feeling about it, goes a long way. And hopefully your family members will understand where you're at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. What other tips do you have?
For me, I think setting boundaries up front and setting those realistic expectations. And we kind of like talked a little bit about that too, but truly just setting up those realistic expectations of not striving for the perfect holiday, because it does not exist. No matter
Nope.
how many times we want to, put this out there, the perfect holiday doesn't exist. And there's going to be something that happens and it might throw you off balance or throw you off of like kind of the flow that you have, and just remembering that it is okay. It's part of the experience, it's part of the opportunity to just still enjoy the holiday season without stressing yourself out over having everything lined up, dotting your i's, crossing your t's. Like, it does not have to be that way.
Yeah.
So for me, it's just like the biggest thing for me on that note is just focusing on creating those meaningful moments, having those opportunities to just really take in those little moments, those small moments, making memories with your family, with friends during those events, whatever it is, and really just like leaning into that instead of worrying about, well, this messed up and this, was out of place. At the end of the day, it really doesn't matter because no one's going to remember that. They're going to remember those actual quality memories that you made.
Oh my gosh, it reminds me of my one of my favorite Christmas movies is Christmas Vacation, where
Mm,
Clark Griswold is like he like wants all the family to be happy and all the Christmas lights to be perfect, and then of course like a series of like things fall apart, and then he has this
yeah.
like snap moment, right? And it's like you don't want I think sometimes putting all those expectations are like kind of manifesting that snap moment a little bit because yeah, it's not nothing no event is perfect, no get together is
No.
perfect. Like and also, I think like on the realistic expectations piece, like holidays sometimes put you in situations where you're around people that don't always have the same values of you as you or don't always treat you the way that you would prefer to be treated. And obviously, I like respect people who decide not to go in those situations 100%. But if you've chosen to go into those situations, I think it's important to expect that behavior because
Mhm.
if you go in and you're like, oh, maybe they'll be better this time, or they won't say that thing that's going to upset me or do that thing, uh,
Yeah.
and then it happens, then you're going to be in a more emotional state. But if you're prepared up front and you're like, they're going to say this, how am I going to react in this moment
Yeah.
to this? How am I going to do it to keep my peace? And like, like still enjoy the time, I think that can help a lot.
I think so too. And again, going off of that point of like, how am I going to handle that in the moment? Step away, take that space for yourself, being able to, if you need alone time, go do that, go into a separate room, go for a drive, whatever you need to do to remove yourself from that situation. Because again, the holidays, you really want to focus on those memorable moments that you can make. And so if you focus on that one little thing that happened that you kind of knew was going to happen anyway, you don't want that to kind of spoil that experience. So remove yourself from that situation if you can, and like find other outlets to kind of reset in that way.
Yeah. The other thing too is around expectations is financial expectations
Mm,
too. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. I obviously am way more well off than I was 5 years ago, and yet
Hmm.
I still feel the stress and anxiety of, am I like, oh, I need to buy this person a gift and this person a gift and this person, and am I
Yeah.
spending enough on this person? And like you just like start to build up this angst, at least I do. And I think
Yeah.
that like setting the right financial expectations for yourself and being okay with like, you can't buy everybody everything. Not everybody needs everything either.
No, exactly. Like just being realistic about your budget, I think goes a long way. And if you have to like cut something out this year, that's okay. But just making sure that you have what you need for gifts, decorations, activities, whatever you're planning for the holidays, and just stick to it. I think that's just the biggest thing. Not going off budget because you're like, oh, well, this one thing happened. Like maybe it's just going to stress you out. Just stick to your budget. Budgeting is key. I like budgeting. And I think that especially for holidays,
We should do an episode
it,
on budgeting.
we should.
I'm
I'm
really
no
bad at it.
expert. I know. I was like, I'm no expert, but I do know that, you know,
But we have a podcast, right? So
true, true. Then that means we can speak on it. So,
yes.
but going off of that, overspending, I feel like that leads to a lot more stress than it needs to, especially
Yeah.
during the holidays, even after the holidays are over, because then you're reflecting on like, oh, I spent so much money on X, I spent so much money on Y, and then it puts you in this whole spiral. So just creating a holiday budget, I think will make the difference in reducing that stress that you
Yeah.
experience.
I also feel like we as a society are getting better about this. Is like, it used to be the expectation was that you bought everybody gifts, where, and maybe I don't know if
Yes,
it's a generational thing or it's just a society shifting or it's just our economy, but like, I don't know. I would rather spend time with you. Like, don't buy me anything, to be frank. I would rather like, let's
absolutely.
just spend time together. Let's play some games. Let's have a few drinks and let's just enjoy this time. That's more important to me.
Yes. That's my love language. Like quality time is number one for me. It's number one for me. And I value that way more than any gift that anybody could
Yeah.
ever get me. Like just, mentioning, holiday travel, being able to go home to my family that is the gift. I know that sounds cheesy. It's the gift to me, but
It
like
is, but it's because
it
it's
really
expensive
is.
too.
Yes, that is traveling home, even though I drive home, but that's still gas and like car maintenance, all of those different things that takes money
Potentially
as
time
well,
off.
time off, all of those things. But to me, that's very valuable. And I choose to spend that money. I choose to do that. And that doesn't put me in a mindset of like, oh, I wish I wouldn't have done that or whatever it is. But again, just being able to make sure that you can make that happen.
Yeah. Also, like, I just want to say, anyone who is like appreciative of that, I think is those are the people that matter the most, that are appreciative.
Mhm.
Like, if you have somebody in your life who is making you feel guilty that you're not buying them the perfect gift, or they're making you feel guilty for also not, like, some people can't afford to go back to their hometown either during the holidays.
Right.
And if you're making like a family member or friend feel guilty for that, then like, shame on you. I just had to say
Yeah,
that. Shame on you.
absolutely.
What are other tips outside of boundaries?
The only other tip that I will briefly mention is managing your family dynamics.
Oh yeah.
And that can be touchy for some, so I'm only going to say this. Communicate openly and honestly with family members, period. Set your boundaries early so that you're able to, manage whatever may come up. We already addressed that earlier, setting those boundaries early. And that's all I will say about it. Don't want to get
Mic drop.
too mic drop. That's all I'm going to say about it. It's
Could
so
not
important
agree
because
more.
Yes, it's so important because I have friends and I know people that have, go through different things. And that's the number one thing is just communicating openly, honestly, and making sure that you set your boundaries with your family. And that can go a long way.
1,000%. And don't feel guilty about it. Mm-mm.
Correct.
Come talk to us. We'll hype you up if you're nervous about those boundaries. We will hype you
Yep,
up, encourage you to set the boundary.
always.
It's
We are
so
your
important.
hype women for that.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I think like kind of building off that, another thing, and we talked a little bit about like you mentioned finding time for yourself, but like
Hmm.
self-care during this time is the thing that can easily be thrown to the side, but it's like so critical. Like this is when you need it the most.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Because again, when we get into at least for me, when I get into the holiday season, I'm not thinking about me. I'm thinking about other people. I want to make sure other people are taken care of. They're happy. They have what they need. And I sometimes neglect my self-care and mental health when in the holiday season. So it's so important to make sure you find time for yourself. Separate yourself from all the hustle and bustle from the
Yeah.
holiday season and really like take care of yourself, and whatever that looks like. There are a variety of ways to recharge and reset when it comes to your self-care. And we've talked about this before, and we are your self-care hype queens. We will always share that. But exercise, go on a walk, long walks are amazing. Again, temperature, dependent. If it's like -2, don't do that. But if you want to, that's fine. It's like cryotherapy. You could also do meditation, reading, or just really any opportunity or any activity that gives you that feeling of relaxation, I think is so important. So I'm also going to be like doing some sort of self-care during the holiday season. I always do,
Yeah.
because it honestly keeps me sane. So
No, for real. Like I'm like, if I'm traveling, then I'm bringing all of my skincare products. I'm doing my whole
mhm.
bougie routine no matter where I am at night because that
Yep.
helps me wind down and relax. I have Insight Timer to do my meditations. I still read while I'm going, like whatever that alone moment time is. And also, again, like going back to like the guilt and like saying no to things, like
Hmm.
when you say no to things, it doesn't always have to be because you have another thing to go to. It can also be because
No.
you're like, I scheduled this me time and I have to have it. Otherwise, I'm going to lose my mind. Like,
Yeah.
that's okay to say no to other things in order to prioritize.
Absolutely. You can say no for a variety of reasons, none of which that you owe to anybody. So
Facts.
there's that.
Facts. I'm loving all of these tips. I think we've covered most of like the things that we can think of. I'm sure there's a million others. You guys will have to
There
let us
are.
know. But these are the
Absolutely.
big ones. So now that we've come to the end, we always like to close out every episode by sharing the last drop of tea for the day. Stephanie?
So the holidays are typically a time of joy and connection, but we recognize that it can also be hard. Take this time for yourself when needed, unplug, and allow yourself to make the most of this holiday season.
I love
Thanks,
that.
y'all.
Bye, guys.